ضمن أنشطة. بنرحب بحضراتكم جميعا في السكند ويبينار ضمن أنشطة المشروع اللي هو UK سعودي Electric Vehicles Enhanced Education Research Network. موضوعنا اليوم بنتشرف يكون معنا الدكتور محمد عزب ينبع Industrial College Royal Commission at ينبع. He is Associate Professor in Electrical Engineering. Inshallah, his talk will be about the optimum scenarios of electric vehicles charging infrastructure, a case study for the KSA market. بندعو حضرته إن هو يبدأ، ونستأذن حضراتكم لو في أي استفسارات أو أي أسئلة. إن شاء الله هناك وقت مخصص في نهاية العرض للرد على الاستفسارات والأسئلة، وبإذن الله كمان هناك سيرفي بسيط جدا عبارة عن ثواني حضراتكم هيوصل لكم على الشات إن شاء الله. اتفضل يا دكتور محمد.
شكرا دكتور محمد. السلام عليكم. Good evening everyone. My name is Muhammad Azab, Associate Professor of Power Electronics and Electrical Drives from Yanbu Industrial College, Royal Commission of Yanbu. I am delighted to conduct and participate in this webinar titled Optimum Scenarios of EV Charging Infrastructure, a case study for the Saudi Arabia market. First of all, I would like to express my appreciation and gratitude to Professor Aida Al-Atrafi, Head of Mechanical Engineering Department of Faculty of Engineering, King Abdulaziz University, for his kind invitation to participate in this series of webinars. I am also grateful to Professor Muhammad Radi for his support and encouragement to conduct this webinar. So I wish useful and successful and valuable webinar to all attendees, inshallah. The webinar aims to cover the following points: introduction to the top barriers to EV adoption, quick glance on Saudi Arabia market status, main objective of the case study, main parameters affecting the case study, quick briefing to one of the evolutionary search algorithm, which is particle swarm optimization, assumptions and numerical inputs of the study, some obtained results, and charging mix schemes. With international typical value of the ratio of public charging points to the number of electric vehicles. Commendation for highways and zones outside cities will be provided also. And finally, I will provide some conclusions and possible future work. Before starting the presentation, I would like to ask only one question, which actually urged me to conduct this study. If we have a specific number of electric vehicles running in a certain province or city or area, how many public chargers that should be installed in order to secure charging operation of these vehicles? In other words, what is the optimum ratio that should be selected? Is it 1-to-1? 1-to-1 means that one charger for each vehicle. Is it 1-to-2, 1-to-5, 1-to-10, 1-to-15? Please, you can fill this small form, and or you can keep your answer, and I will provide my own answer at the end of this webinar. So the first point, introduction to the top barriers to EV adoption. In fact, according to the latest survey conducted by International Energy Agency in Paris in 2021, the 5 top barriers that prevent EV adoption on large scale are lack of EV charging points and stations, lack of suitable types of electric vehicles, high capital cost of electric vehicles, long charging time, and immaturity of regulations and policies. So the lack of charging infrastructure is one of the top is on the top barriers. To figure out the size of this problem, look at the current situation in the European Union countries. In European Union countries, they have installed around 185,000 public charging points. By 2025, this number should be increased to 1.3 million public charging points, while by 2030, they have to install more than 3 million chargers in order to cover the increasing demand on the EV technology or in the EV at all. This is a huge challenge for them due to the huge amount of funds that should be assigned for such projects. The problem also is existing on large scale in the Middle East countries. Therefore, it is important to find solution to this problem. Otherwise, phase out plans of internal combustion engine vehicles would be subjected to some inevitable delays. Let us have a quick glance on the Saudi Arabia market status. The kingdom intends to produce 150,000 electric vehicles by a new brand name called Seer, starting from 25-26. Currently, there are 16 importers approved by SASU, which is Saudi Standard Organization. In Riyadh only, there are around 5 million gasoline-operated vehicles. The target is to convert 30% of these vehicles to EV counterparts by 2030. The market share of electric vehicle and the hybrid electric vehicle does not exceed 3%. Meanwhile, more than 80% of Saudis own vehicles. There is a lack of charging stations. There are around 100 EV chargers inside petrol stations at some strategic places around the kingdom. Electromin, as a part of Petromin Group, owns and operates around 700 charging points around the kingdom. Also, ABB has installed some residential chargers inside some compounds around or near Riyadh. And the estimated imported electric vehicle and hybrid electric vehicles is between 50,000 and 60,000 vehicles by 2025. So, according to these numbers, we can consider the kingdom is one of the promising markets in the Middle East. It can be converted to be one of the EV technology hubs in the Middle East with many technology transfer centers, and there are huge investment opportunities in different EV technologies, including, of course, charging infrastructure. Because the market is still thirsty for such technology. So what is the main objective of this study and problem statement? In fact, in this study, I wanted to find an answer to the questions that I have conveyed a few minutes ago. How many chargers should be installed in a certain region in order to serve in an optimal way specific number of vehicles using different types of chargers? Or what is the optimum ratio? Chargers over running vehicles, chargers to the running vehicles. In fact, there is no unique answer to this question, but we can obtain multiple scenarios or multiple solutions, not only because there are many factors and parameters that are affecting the computation or determination of this ratio, but also because we can assign some criteria, like, for example, minimization of cost, minimization of specific type of chargers, minimization of charging time, or minimization of these items together. We have two extreme scenarios. If we install a limited number of public charging points in order to reduce the cost and to limit the budget that should be assigned for such projects, what will happen? The charging time will be increased, station congestions and congestion will be increased also. Drivers and owners of electric vehicles will lose confidence in EV technology. Market acceptance will be delayed, and phase-out plans of internal combustion engines are subjected to inevitable delay as well. Look at the other extreme. If we install excessive number of chargers more than needed, what will happen? We install excessive number of chargers in order to reduce the charging time and to achieve owner satisfaction, fulfill commitment to the community. What will happen? Huge budgets should be assigned for such projects. More investments are needed in such sector, which would have negative effects on the investment on other sectors. Therefore, there is a trade-off between low cost and low charging time or high quality of service. Therefore, it is important to study this issue carefully in order to provide the decision maker with some alternatives, some optimum scenarios, and they can select among these alternatives. according to availability of funds, according to their vision and the existing policies. One of these solutions to the problem is to optimize simultaneously the cost and the charging time of chargers. Therefore, the charging service can be provided with considerable level of quality at minimum possible budgets. What are the main parameters affecting this case study? We have many parameters. For example, number of running vehicles in the province, types of EV chargers, their rating, their initial prices, maintenance cost of chargers, daily travel distance during working days, travel distance during weekends, battery capacity of electric vehicles, EV efficiency expressed either as need power to run only 1 kilometer or the distance traveled by electric vehicle with only 1 kilowatt, initial and desired final state of charge of electric vehicle batteries, installation cost of new stations, upgrading cost of existing gasoline stations in order to host new EV chargers, energy prices for residential and commercial applications, EV density on specific roads, highway lengths and distance between cities, number of vehicles entering the city, and so on. These are the major variables and parameters that affect the computation of this issue. Charging mix scheme or charging mix approach. In this approach, the same vehicle can be charged by different types of chargers. In fact, we have two major types of chargers, residential and public chargers. Residential chargers are AC types. Their ratings start from 2 kilowatts and can reach to 25 or 27 kilowatts. While public chargers are DC types, they can be classified as fast chargers and ultra-fast chargers. The power rating of DC types start from 40 or 50 kilowatt up to 150 kilowatt, and sometimes we can find 180 kilowatt ultra-fast charger. Look at the following example. If we have EV battery with a capacity of 75 kilowatt hour, this is one of types of Tesla and many other types also. It can be charged by any of these types. Full charging time. With the 5 kilowatt charger, we need 15 hours. While using the 25 kilowatt charger, we need only 3 hours to fully charge the vehicle. With the 50 kilowatt, we need just 1 hour and a half, while with the ultra fast charger, we need only 30 minutes, half an hour. So what is the problem now? What is the problem formulation? We want to search the optimum number of vehicle charging points, EV charging points, such that a customized objective function, J, is minimized to the minimum possible value. In this study, the objective function has two major terms, overall cost and overall charging time. Both of them are function of type of charger, their rating, and of course, prices and many other factors, as I said before. L1 home charger, they are usually purchased by owners. L2 residential charger are usually installed by local authorities like municipal affairs, and there is some government incentives or green loans. This happens in one of the compounds near Riyadh. The municipal affair there have installed residential charger. While L3 and L4 DC charger are public charger, they are installed directly by government and investors. The objective function is subject to some important constraint in order to achieve realistic and practical results, to achieve successful optimization algorithm. Both terms of the objective function has weight factors. The weight factor is a value between 0 and 1. How can we select the proper value of the weight factors? In fact, the proper values depend on the operating conditions. We have three different cases: for crowded cities, for countries with limited funds, and for terms with equal importance. Of course, for crowded cities, we want to reduce the charging time inside the city. In this case, we assign higher priority
اي
to the
مم. اي
we,
نو
ass-
تشارج.
we assign higher priority to the charging time term. In this case, W charging time is greater than the
هو
cost.
المفروض بس عادة ممكن اللي هو
Sorry, it can take values like 0.9, 0.8, or 0.7. The corresponding W cost will be 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3 respectively. For countries with limited funds, of course, we want to minimize the cost. In this case, we assign higher priority to the cost term. Therefore, W cost is higher than W charge. It can take these values 0.9, 0.8, or 0.7. The resultant W charging will be 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3 respectively. The third case, for equal importance term, both terms have the same priority. We grant the same value for both weight factor. We assign unity for both W cost and W charge. In addition to that, the objective function can accommodate any customized term. For example, we can minimize specific type of charge. For example, we can minimize L1 or L2 or L3 or L4. We can also optimize the ratio directly, charger over electric vehicles. So the objective function is tailor-made. Whatever the objective function, it should be subject to some constraints to achieve successful algorithm and applicable results. Some of these important constraints are upper limit of the total cost, upper limit of the number of any type of chargers, upper and the minimum limit of the ratio itself. And one of the important constraints are the minimum value of the total generated charging power. So the algorithm is running and it is determining the number of chargers, but it should not violate these constraints. What will happen if the constraints are not, if some constraints are not involved in the optimization algorithms? We have two possible cases. The first one, if the minimum value of the total generated charging power is not involved as a constraint, what will happen? The algorithm will determine few numbers of chargers in order to minimize the cost. What is the consequence? The resulted charging power will not be sufficient. So the optimization algorithm is not successful. Another possible case, if the maximum number of home chargers are not involved in the algorithm as a constraint, what will happen? The algorithm will determine huge numbers of home chargers, more than needed, in order to minimize the charging time. What is the consequence for that? The results are not realistic because we need only one home charger at a time. It does not make sense if we have two home chargers and we have only one vehicle. So what I want to say here, that any optimization algorithm should be governed by some constraints. After problem formulation, it can be solved by any evolutionary search algorithm, like particle swarm optimization, genetic algorithms, simulated annealing, anti-colony optimization, and many other algorithms. In the webinar, in this study, I have utilized three techniques: particle swarm, genetic algorithm, and simulated annealing. Why? Because these algorithms are well known and have been applied successfully in many other optimization problems. In the webinar, I will provide quick briefing to one of them, which is particle swarm optimization techniques. In fact, particle swarm optimization technique is one of the evolutionary search techniques that is based on iterative searching for the optimum solution. We have search space where candidate solutions are distributed randomly in this workspace. and they are evolving toward the optimum points or to the optimum solution. Particle swarm optimization has been proposed initially by Eberhard and Kennedy in 1995 in order to simulate the social behavior of flock of birds when they are flying, searching for food or traveling for long distance. Then they have simplified the algorithm and they have discovered its ability to operate as an optimization technique to solve many optimization problems. They have proposed two equations to describe the position velocity of each particle of the swarm. The updating of velocities and the position depends on three factors. The first factor is called local best position, which is called local opinion of each particle, and global best position, which represents the global best solution obtained so far by any particle of the swarm. This is called social opinion. And we have inertia factor. The inertia factor determines or it is affecting the rate of approaching to the target. Normally, we grant 50% for each opinion, 50% for my opinion and 50% for the opinion of the swarm. We can change this ratio and we observe the performance on the optimization algorithm. Here we can, this emulation to the BSO technique, we can observe how candidate solutions are evolving like flock of birds until they reach to the final solution. We can describe the algorithm by this simplified flowchart. Firstly, we set PSO parameter like number of particles, maximum number of iterations, inertia factor. The number of particles represent the number of candidate solutions, while the maximum number of iterations describe how many times each bird or each solution is evolved toward the final value. We start the first iteration. We initialize the number of chargers of this optimization problem randomly, or we can start from specific value. We evaluate the objective function for all particles. Then we determine local and global best position. Then we update position and velocity of all particles. Then reevaluate again the objective function. Then we determine local and global.
دكتور محمد، يبدو أن فقدنا الصوت.
تقريبا.
انا افتكرت العيب من عندي انا، بس واضح انه هو
نفس الحالة شكيت في نفسي.
طيب
اتصل بي.
طيب، جزاك الله خير.
ايوه يا دكتور، النت قطعت ورجعت تاني، مش عارف هشير سكرين تاني. هعيد الحته دي تاني. ثانيه واحده. مش عارف النت قطعت. صوتي واضح حضرتك؟ السكرين شيرت
كده
كريستال
تمام
كلير.
كده تمام.
مش عارف انا النت قطعت لغايه امتى. انا هنا حضرتك بشرح
هبدأ
simulation.
الانيشاليز من اول انيشاليز نمبر اوف تشارج.
طيب اوكي تمام. طيب in the first iteration we initialize number of charger randomly, or we can start from specific value. Then we evaluate the objective function. We determine local best position and global best position of all particles. We update position and velocities and re-evaluate again the objective function, and we determine again local best and global best. We repeat the algorithm for all number of iterations. The exit condition would be number of iterations, the maximum number of iterations, or a satisfactory value of the objective function. If the objective function reaches to a specific satisfactory value, we can terminate the algorithm and we get the global solution. Here we can observe how the candidate solutions are evolved to reach to the target. The target here is the movement of black cursor or black arrow. We can observe that solutions are evolved like swarm of bird, like flock of birds. So we change the target and we observe the resultant evolution of the solution. Okay. What are the major assumptions and numerical inputs of the case study? The existing number of vehicles is 150,000 cars. Why? In order to emulate the case of new brand name search. Type of employed charger are 2 residential types and 2 public types, and 1 on-demand charging, similar to highway emergency flatbeds. Numerically, it can be considered as DC fast chargers with emergency charging system on roads. The power rating of electric vehicle chargers, residential are 5 kilowatt and 25 kilowatt, while public chargers are 50 kilowatt and 120 kilowatt. The battery capacity of vehicles is 75 kilowatt hour, while the EV energy consumption is 1 kilowatt for every travel of 4 kilometers. The prices from reliable websites. The price of 5 kilowatt charger is 1,500 real. The price of the 25 charger is 6,000 real, while the prices of 50 kilowatt and 120 kilowatt are 40,000 real and 150,000 real respectively. The annual maintenance cost of residential charger are between 100 and 200 reals. The maintenance cost of public charger is between 2,000 and 4,000 reals. The lifespan of residential charger 5 years, and the socket should be changed every couple of years. Initial and final state of charge. The program can accept various profiles, but in this webinar or in this study, I will provide only results for the worst case charging, which means that all vehicles are to be charged from 0 to 100%. Why I selected this value? In order to recognize the upper ceiling of budgets and charging times. But any profile can be involved in the algorithm. The daily cover distance also we can utilize various profiles during working days and during weekends. One of them here is the EV daily utilization profile during working days from Sunday to Thursday. Of course, this profile is varying from one province to another and from one day to another, but in general, it has the shape of Gaussian distribution. The curve can be shifted toward the right or toward the left. But we consider few percentage of people drive their vehicle for distance shorter than 25 kilometers a day, and also few percentage of people drive their vehicle for distance longer than 100 kilometers per day, and the majority of people drive the vehicle between 25 and 100 kilometers per day. During weekend, the attitude of people is slightly different because many people prefer to travel to the holy cities Mecca, Medina, and considerable percentage travel to the surrounding area near beaches or inside deserts, and a few percentage of people leave the vehicle and go for a walk, for example. The initial state of charge also, the program can accept any profile. We consider few percentage of people are keen to keep their vehicle charged between 80% and 100%. Also, few percentage of people return home with their vehicle charged with a level less than 20%. and the majority of people keep their vehicle charged between 20 and 60%. But as I said before, the initial state of charge for this webinar is 100 from 0 to 100% to determine the ceiling of budgets. Here I will present some obtained results. The worst case required power is 2.4 gigawatts. Here we have two group of results. Optimization results, the left column, when we minimized only the costs, and optimization results when we optimized only the charge type. This is the right column. When we minimize the cost only, the total budget is 700 million real. That overall charging time is 1.3 mega hour. And the number of EV served by only one charger is 167. This is too much. I mean that the ratio is 1 over 167. And the available charging power is 2.4 gigawatts, which accomplish the constraint. This means that the results are realistic. On the other hand, when I minimized only the charging time, the total budget is 2.7 billion real. The overall charging time has been reduced dramatically, and the number of electric vehicles served by one charger is 5, which means that the ratio is 1 over 5. And again, the resulted charging power is 2.4 gigawatts, which satisfy the constraint. In between, we have obtained different scenarios. For example, if you want to improve the ratio to be 1 over 25, one charger to serve a 25 vehicle, we should invest 861 million real. If you want to improve the ratio to be 12, 1 over 12, you should invest more than 1 billion real. The best obtained ratio is 1 over 5 with a budget of 2.7 billion real. This is the best obtained ratio, and this is the corresponding resultant number of chargers. 1 over 12 can be considered a satisfactory value. Here, for example, we need 860 fast chargers of 120 kilowatts and 11,000 of 50 kilowatts. This is the typical value of the ratio in many countries. For example, Korea has the best obtained ratio, 1 over 2. Means that one charger is serving 2 vehicles. While New Zealand has the worst ratio, 1 over 52. In UK, the ratio is 1 over 13. In European countries, the recommendation is 1 over 10. One charger should serve 10 vehicles. By the way, many European countries have not accomplished this recommendation till now due to many problems. Economical problems, of course, not technical problems. I want to make a comparison with these international values, and that achieved from the optimization algorithm. The optimization algorithm has the following ratios: 1 over 5, 1 over 9, 1 over 11, 1 over 12, 1 over 19, 1 over 22, and so on. The corresponding budgets or costs are also presented in this table. According to these results, they are reasonable and in good agreement with many international typical values. We can consider 1 over 12 is an optimum solution or one of the convenient solutions. Why? Because it is representing the midway of cost and midway of charging time. Results for 1 over 12 is 860 fast chargers. For highways, once we selected the ratio 1 over 12, we relieve some of the DC fast charger to be installed on highways. For highways, the optimum or charging types are DC fast charger and DC ultra fast charger to reduce the charging time. And of course, on-demand charger for emergency cases. In fact, for highways, the government should sacrifice a little bit the cost in order to achieve other goals like commitment to EV owners and drivers, securing the highway, providing high level of security for the highway, also to help phase out plans of internal combustion engine vehicles, and to help people to accept this paradigm shift and of course to facilitate the development of nearby areas and surrounding zones. This station, of course, can be integrated with many activities like coffee shop, restaurants, pollution, spraying area, and so on. Here we have two major examples. The highway between Yambo and Mecca, the distance is 360 kilometers. It can be secured by only one station situated at 180 kilometers from each city, integrated with some on-demand stations. This solution can provide the highest economic possibility. On the other hand, it can be secured by 6 or 5 stations located every 60 kilometers. This is one of the highest security possibilities. If we utilize only one station based on upgrading of some existing gasoline station, what are the optimum locations? It would be Rabigh, King Abdullah Economic City, and there is a recently installed gasoline station existing before coast between the two entrances of King Abdullah Economic City. Here, we upgrade only the existing gasoline station. We install some chargers, DC chargers, for example, and flatbed. We don't have to install new station from scratch. One of the visible solutions are to install 3 stations located every 90 kilometers. For future development, we can install 6 or 5 stations located every 60 kilometers. In that case, the optimum location will be Rais, Mastura, Rabigh, Thawal, and Asafan or Al Gum. The second highway is Mecca Medina. The distance is around 450 kilometers. It can be secured at least by only one station situated at 225 kilometers from each city. Of course, it should be integrated with some on-demand stations. This is the most economic solution. On the other hand, for future development, it can be secured by 6 stations. Everyone is located every 65 kilometers from each others. We consider 4 stations located every 90 kilometers is a visible solution. For zones outside city, the most convenient types are DC chargers and DC fast chargers. The resultant charging time will be between 30 and 60 minutes. It can be considered good opportunity for investment, where the station can be integrated with restaurants, cafe, shop, playground, seating areas, mosque, and so on. Important issue. There is additional cost. Besides to the EV charging infrastructure cost obtained from the optimization algorithm, we should put in mind the power generation cost. In the worst case, this power is 2.4 gigawatts. Fortunately, the power generation capacity of the kingdom is between 80 and 83 gigawatts, according to some reports published in the internet. Therefore, the needed power is around 3% of the power generation capacity of the kingdom. This can be considered a little burden on the national electric grid. If you consider another realistic scenario, assuming only 60% of electric vehicles are to be charged simultaneously, in this case, the needed power will be dropped to 1.4 or 1.5 gigawatts. It is the capacity of single power station or the capacity of 2 medium-sized power stations. The needed power in this case will be less than 2% of the power generation capacity of the kingdom, which also can be considered negligible burden on the national electric grid. But for many countries other than the kingdom, power generation cost cannot be discarded. It should be involved in the overall cost. And this is one of the challenges in the many countries in the European Union. Here's some highlights on the developed code to demonstrate the capability of parameter modification. Here for 150,000, can change the number of cards. Battery capacity 75 kilowatt hour. EV efficiency 0.25. rating of different chargers, 5K, 25, 50K, and 120. We can change it easily in the program. The unit price of each type of charger can be modified, also the maintenance cost of each charger. And here are the major outputs. Number of chargers, of course, they are absolute values obtained from the optimization algorithm. Also, we have here evolution of the objective function for 3 running, for example. By the way, if we run the optimization program 100 times, we will get 100 different solutions. But what are the major difference between these 100 solutions? Number one, the algorithm convergence time. Number two, number of iterations to reach the same satisfied value of objective function can be reached after 100 iteration or for example, 150 iteration or 40 iteration. Also, the final value of the objective function J is varying from one running to another. And of course, the resultant number of chargers. So how can we select? In fact, we run the optimization algorithm several times, 100 for example, and we can obtain, we select the most appropriate to us in terms of overall cost, in terms of charging time. So most of them can be considered optimal. For example, one running lead to, for example, 700 million. The other is 700 and 702 million. Other is 699. So we can select between them, but all running are different solutions. We cannot reach to the same solution twice. All people who are working with optimization algorithms know this very well. So I can now go for the conclusions if we have enough time. This simple study provides several options to the optimum ratio, number of public charging points over electric vehicles, based on some criteria like minimization of cost only, minimization of charging time only, or based on optimization of both cost and time, and many other terms like minimization of specific type of charge. The obtained results are reasonable and in good agreement with typical value of such ratio of many countries. The accuracy of the obtained result depends on the accuracy of the input data. It can be enhanced if more real data and survey results about driver attitude and rate of driving and daily covered distance are updated and available. The developed optimization algorithm is able to accommodate any type of EV charger with any rating and any available prices. The objective function is tailor-made. It can accommodate, can be customized, and can accommodate any customized term. Each term have weight factor to grant different level of priorities. On-demand charging service can be integrated with the highway station, such that highest level of security are provided to EV owners. This way, they can accept this paradigm shift in transportation system that would be considered as new generation of flat rates. What are the future work? Study can be enhanced by involving updated data collected from different sources, such as traffic centers, GPS maps, surveys from owners and drivers. Prices also can be updated periodically. More rating of EV batteries can be involved in the study. Optimal location could be determined also. And for here in the study, we mainly determine the number of chargers, but we didn't mention where exactly they should be installed. This is another study called optimum location or optimum site inside the city. Other types of charging schemes like wireless power transfer can be involved in the study, but I am not sure if the kingdom has taken this direction or no. Maybe till now they didn't invest in wireless power chargers. Thank you for your attendance and for dedicating this time to listen to this humble study. I'm ready for any question from the attendees. I hope the seminar or the webinar was successful and useful.